I was muted. How's it going, everyone? Let me know if I'm too loud. But I think the sound should be good. And I think I figured out the light contrast thing, so it's not auto-adjusting. Okay, let me try now. Nope. We're good. Alright, let me switch this over. How's everyone doing? First. I remember that. I know, Croc used to be first all the time. Looks like you beat him, Slayer. Hey, Demon. How's it going? Dev, that's a really sweet emote. Whose channel did you get that from? Not a big... I can respect other people's choice. Oh, for Vim? Hey, Nim. How's it going? How you doing today? Just started, and Night yells for water. Yeah. Yeah, well, Nightbot's looking out for me. Nightbot can yell all at once. But it's got a point. I'm actually, I'm doing an intermittent fasting diet. So usually, like, the first half of the day, I just drink water. So, Nightbot's kind of... That's kind of creepy that Nightbot knew about that, actually. Because I didn't tell Nightbot. I didn't update anything. But I've been drinking nothing but water. Actually, after this stream, I'm going to have my first meal and then go work out. So yeah, this stream's kind of just to give you guys a chance to ask any questions you have, and we kind of brought website reviews back full force, so it's kind of just an hour for if you guys have any questions, ask away. If you want a website review, let me know. Otherwise, kind of just at the end of the day, it's another chance just to touch base with you guys and catch up too. You'll see me pushing out a lot more YouTube videos. And that's kind of where my focus is going. So you see a lot of, I'm just kind of tackling Code Wars problems and stuff like that, because I know a lot of people like that. So I'm pushing out videos all the way till the end of December with Code Wars. And then what I'm going to try to do, it's going to be like every Monday and Thursday, I'm going to push out a new YouTube video, and it's going to be like a little tutorial of something. That's kind of the plan. And I want to try that for a few months, see how it goes. But I kind of want to go back to the roots of this channel, like why we even started this community, and like just trying to, instead of me just working on a project for 3 months straight and then moving on to the next project, I kind of want to bring back the bite-sized projects and stuff like that, and just videos that kind of answer people's questions and just try to help you guys out. Like this channel was really for aspiring developers, and I want to do what I can to bring it back to that. So you'll see a lot more YouTube videos. Let me know if you guys have any preferences for kind of tutorials to create or anything like that. You're doing pretty good? Glad to hear it, Nim. Holidays are coming up. You guys excited? Do you guys have time off? Oh, that's Scrubbing's emotes. I really like that emote. That was a good emote. Just working on some personal projects. What are you working on right now, Slayer? You're starting a new job, Nim. That's awesome. What's the position, if you don't mind me asking? That's really exciting. January's it's coming up. You're about to get started. Hey, Dev, welcome back. How have you been? I've been really good, Demon. Really good. I started getting some balance back in my life. It's for about 2 years. I gave up dating, hanging out with anyone, and I just literally would work my part-time job, and I would just code and learn and read. And I dove so much into that life that it took me a little while to get out and start getting my social life back and all that. So that's me right now. I'm trying to get balance back in my life, so I don't burn out. And still learning a lot of stuff. Still reading every day. Still coding every day. Learning a lot of UX stuff right now, but I'm getting some balance back. Going on dates again, hanging out with people, stuff like that. So life's good. It's been too long. It's been way too long. It's good to get that stuff back in my life. I'm really looking forward to the holidays too. I had so much PTO banked up. It's a tough month. It's a tough month. I think like half of my December, I'm taking off, or I get off. It's pretty nice. How are the meetup sessions going? How about desktop app reviews? Slayer, we could definitely do that if we plan it. That's not going to be... I think it's easier just to pull up a website, but if you're interested, I could definitely load up that app. Does it work for Mac? And then I could do it for the next stream. But the meetup sessions, that's a good question, because we have our mentorship meetup in Chicago. I postponed it till January, just because my schedule is drastically changing. I'm going to start up Full Stack. I applied. They have this like mentorship program for kind of all their alumni, and I applied to it. Just I want to help out, and so that's going to be going on. I just got an email back about that, so we're going to start that in January. But I don't know what my schedule is going to look like. So push the meetup because of holidays, and we're gonna do our first one in January, and then anyone that wants to touch base, because I know a few people were really excited about it, I'm gonna have a Skype meeting with them. Kind of just half an hour conversation, see how it's going, see how the projects are going. You know. I was trying to figure out if my audio is broken, but NA production. Yeah, I'm pretty much a representation of NA. No, North America. Just launched our project for Ditschet. I'm pretty sure I just butchered that. Telecom, so done with work until January. It's gotta be boring. I mean, that's really exciting that you launched it. What are you doing to fill your time? Xmas is coming soon. Can't believe it's next. Yeah, I know, Demon. It really is. It's next week. I have not even bought my presents yet. Thank God for Amazon. It does. This year moved really fast, Demon. It does feel like that. I mean, shit. I didn't even have a full-time developer job at the beginning of this year. Like, things have moved really fast this year. I remember, yeah. I think I was. It was right before Full Stack, beginning of this year. I hadn't started Full Stack with you guys, and I was doing my past live streams, and we were just building projects, trying to get in. Lots happened this year. Developer with a consulting firm in Chicago. That is really cool, Nim. I work in Chicago, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not. I know I mentioned it a few times. That's really cool. You got to be excited for that. Working on mock-ups for a potential client, finishing my Vim plugin, working on a few WordPress plugins, and started learning GUI programming in C. That sounds like quite a workload, Slayer. Huh. So working on mock-ups, are you actually delivering design mock-ups? I do not, Slayer. Pretty sure I don't. I like keeping a clear mind. You're working on some Electron apps? How do you like that? There's going to be a point where I build something with Electron. I'm going to start getting into progressive web app development. So probably going to... React Native is an option, but there's some really cool things, and I think our business could benefit from it as well. I've never really dove into progressive web apps and kind of what they could provide, but our tech manager, he pushed me away from the React Native route if I want to get into like the hybrid apps, and he thinks progressive web app development is a little bit more intuitive, like it feels more intuitive to the user. So I think I'm going to dive into that fairly shortly. Any tips with online multiple choice assessment tests? It seems they are always littered with bad practices and bad solutions to problems. Most of the code snippets are not typical code I've encountered while developing. Kuwood, is this like for college? Is this for a CS degree or something like that? You don't know the answer, choose C. But it really is kind of just a gut check. I don't know. Like sometimes those assessments, like the professor tries to be tricky, or they just, a good professor isn't going to try to trip you up. He's going to assess if you actually read the material, if you know the knowledge, and just the answer should be pretty clear cut, and you should get it if you know it, and you should fail it if you don't. And it really should be that simple. So I guess it depends on whoever came up with the assessment, but really it's kind of just a gut check. Go with your first instinct. Don't overthink it. I hate assessments like that, Kuwood. I really do. I'm assuming it's for like a course. Sova, say hi to Moscow. Moscow, we have someone all the way from Moscow. Welcome. Hello, everyone from Moscow. How you doing today, Sova? The German parent company of UST Mobile. I did not know that. Working on side projects and going back home. Okay, so you're going to spend some time with family. That's cool. Pretty quick to get a basic Electron app up and running. That's what I hear. PWAs are good on Android, but Safari PWAs are shit. Are they? So it sounds like technology really hasn't been adopted just yet. But that's the idea of it. I mean, isn't it pretty similar to just progressive enhancement? Like, that's what it is. So those features that aren't available on Safari, are you able to kind of filter them out? I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to PWAs, but I definitely want to look more into them. But that's the idea that I thought was behind it, is, you can kind of just activate the features as the features become available. But if the features are available and they're just poor performing on Safari, that's kind of a problem. Typically for recruiters, pre-screen for jobs, they seem like real crappy way to assess a candidate, trick questions. Yeah, cool. That's, every company does their interviews their own way. I think if you're getting those questions initially, I think that's fairly common, just to get a pre-screening. It's kind of, those questions should be fairly simple to kind of just screen out the imposters. That's where I see companies in Chicago still using stuff like that, if it's technical in nature. Sometimes you'll get kind of a interesting personality assessment like that, but yeah, I think I just get through it. Just get through it and see what the rest of the interview process is like. Do your best. That's all you can do. I mean, it should be fairly simple. If you know your stuff, those kind of questions should be fairly simple if they're the pre-assessment. But yeah, it's just kind of an annoyance you got to get through, I suppose. So you moved to Chicago, just a coincidence. Nim, yeah, you'll if you ever want to grab lunch sometime, or pretty much any of my followers, feel free to kind of hit me up. I usually I stopped grabbing lunch during weekdays. I started working out a lot during weekdays, but during the weekends, I still do grab lunch. I feel fairly confident when given a take-home project, but some companies send these multiple choice assessments first. I failed. I had a take-home. It was my very first take-home project, and I sent it to Dev. He didn't believe me that a company actually sent me this, because I remember that conversation. But it was a really simple grid. Like, you have 3 columns, and I believe 1 was dynamic, 2 were fixed, and you had to allow that middle column to be dynamic, and I failed it. It was a pretty simple CSS and JavaScript take-home project, and I failed it. And I thought, like, these take-home projects are BS. I only had like an hour to complete it, and boy did I miss those take-home projects. So, if you get a take-home project when you're interviewing for a company, that's a thumbs up. That's a +1. That's awesome. But yeah, I've gotten some weird assessments, like a quiz. I never got like a technical quiz. I always got like a programming challenge, or a take-home project. But I got this weird personality assessment, and I basically had to solve all of these puzzles, and it was to assess. It was like a mixture of how quickly I could solve problems, and then it would have like personality questions mixed in. And so you had to answer within like a couple seconds, or you missed the question. Is a fun assessment. Definitely didn't get a call back, but I think that's the only the assessment that I got in an interview. I don't think that's the same thing you went through. It's fun to do though. You can also compile builds for Windows, Mac, and Linux for Electron. Is that what you're saying? 3-minute delay on stream. Yeah, Soba, it's not a 3-minute delay. It's just I want to get through all the questions. So just so I don't miss all the questions, I kind of you'll hear me rambling on. That's usually where I get behind on the questions. So I'll try to keep up with them. Spent too much time playing with an upgraded stick version guy in a game. Someone suggested a play. What's the game called, Dev? That's a really good game, because Dev and I, we like to kind of just like touch base every once a month at least, and we'll play a game and talk about the community. What's that game? I'm actually pretty excited to play it. Maybe we should invite like viewers to play that. And Slack desktop app are both built in Electron. I know that, yeah. Got enough PTO to grab a lot of lunches. I do! I am off for a lot of days this month. Hey, Amara Landra, welcome. How's it going? I had a JavaScript one, scored super low because questions were really bad. Ended up with a great job anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Yeah, it's a shame companies kind of dish out an assessment, like a test. I really like take-home projects, and even the coding challenges were a lot of fun. But like a quiz, like a multiple-choice assessment, just expect it, but that should only be used as like a pre-assessment, just to kind of filter out the imposters. That's where I see it being used. Just get through it. If you guys know your stuff, you'll most likely get through that pre-assessment. Twitch Cop. How you doing, Amara? How's it going? I'm doing really well. Today's a good day. Been producing like a lot of YouTube tutorial videos and stuff like that. So we kind of hop on once every so often to do like a live Q&A for aspiring developers and stuff like that. But today's a good day. I got a lot of time off. I got to go back to work Monday. When you take PTO, we have a small UI team, and I know a lot is piled up. And I know I'm going to because I have 3 days to go back to work and get everything done, and then I'm taking a bunch of time off again. So it's going to be a busy 3 days, but I'm looking forward to Christmas. Human Fall Flat, that is such a good game. We really should kind of open that up to viewers. The job for 3 months, and then the company lost funding, so I'm now back to my job search. Not a lot of experience to put on a resume, so a job search is still difficult. That's still good experience. Think about a lot of aspiring developers that haven't had that full-time experience yet, and you've had that. So that is kind of an investment, and we've talked a little bit about that. Should you even apply to startups that are going to pay equity or that aren't really going to pay you a salary? And it is. I really argue that it's valuable experience. And the only reason I didn't work at a startup that just paid majority of equity is because I didn't live in Chicago. And all the startups that offered me a job were in Chicago, and it cost me like $50 a day just to go into the city and leave. And so I didn't have the money for it. But if you live in a city that's offering you full-time real experience on a complex application, and you've never had that full-time experience, you should absolutely take it. So that I know it doesn't seem like a lot of good experience, but I didn't have that experience when I was applying to full-time positions. So you're a step ahead of me when it comes to the job application process, or at least when I started. I declined any and all positions that require coding challenges or take-home assignments. Really? Why is that? Sophia, how's it going? Welcome. That's interesting because a lot of people prefer take-home challenges. I've ended several interviews over this. I'd be very interested to hear kind of your perspective on that. Me personally, I love take-home challenges. I actually preferred to, like, I was really excited to interview with a company that gave me a take-home challenge. What framework are you more likely to use in work or clear JavaScript? In my job, I'm using the Django. That does not tell you my preference, though. I really I really enjoy full stack JavaScript, so Node, Express. I'm definitely more comfortable with React, opening to learning more frameworks, but kind of for a front end framework, I like React. I've been using React and Redux for a long time, and I have not touched Vue yet, but I think my next project. My next project is going to use kind of a combination of Express and Nunjux. So Nunjux is just a templating engine, because my next few projects that I have in mind, my personal projects, are really landing pages, where a lot of how I'm going to connect with the community is done outside of these landing pages. So all I need to deliver that set of content is, kind of just Postgres. I'm going to use Sequelize for the ORM. It's just a database manager, and then Express and Node for the backend, and then Nunjux for the templating engine. That's what I prefer for personal projects, but what I do at work is a little bit different. We've been pulling in a lot of projects in different frameworks, so I'm kind of hopping all around, learning a bunch of different stuff, which I like. But it definitely adds to the time it takes me to deliver features. Still not super comfortable with WordPress, so I'm trying to get a little bit more comfortable with that, because we do have a WordPress project that just got our business up and running. Well, not our business, our kind of just a product up and running, and so we just outsourced that, and now we're maintaining it. So for better or worse, I got to learn WordPress. I keep saying that, and I keep putting a little bit of time into it, but I really got to invest a lot more time into it. But I feel like you learn as you go. Like if they want a feature built or they want a bug fixed, I just dive into WordPress. And I definitely don't have a preference for sticking with, like, doing all my work in the plugins. Like our SEO and marketing guys, they love the plugins because they don't need to know a lot of code, and they can mostly fix a lot of our bugs, but that's kind of what I've been messing with lately. Your favorite interview assignment was a paired programming interview. That's interesting. Was it to build a project, or was it a coding challenge? You're welcome, Sova. Mostly because the types of challenges I see, like you say, mostly designed to weed out imposters, and if they fail to do their homework on me enough to know I'm an experienced developer, they're not a place I want to work. So that's fair enough, and I think the take-home challenges and the coding challenges are really, I think you're going to get a lot more of those as a junior developer. And so it sounds like, with your experience, you're applying to mid-level, potentially senior positions, especially senior positions. I very rarely hear about coding challenges. Like the interview process for a senior position versus a junior position, it should look differently. And I agree with you. Like when you have experience to bring to the table, it's going to look differently. Now, the problem is, and let me know if you disagree, most people that do have experience, most developers that do have experience, they don't really brand themselves. They don't make a name for themselves. So when employers do search for them, they should be able to Google them and see open source projects they've contributed to, videos they've created, live streams they've done. They should be able to see all that. And I think most developers don't. They just go to their job and they do their job and they build their features, but they don't really spend time on a blog outside of work. They don't really make a name for themselves. So I think a lot of these companies, they're probably used to these developers that have just done what they needed to at the job, but didn't really have a whole lot of successful personal projects with a giant user base. So, they should do their homework on you. And eventually, like that's kind of what I try to push for is you should be making a name for yourself. You should be writing these blog posts. So a company, the companies are coming to you. These offers, these interviews are coming to you versus you just flying blind and you applying without that branding behind you. So definitely agree. It's going to be a different interview process. Wow, thanks for the bits, Amaro. I really appreciate the donations. Twitch staff are actually they're really generous. I noticed that. Twitch staff are really generous. We usually, when we get a Twitch staff member that stops by, we usually get, some mini donation or some, something like that. So I really appreciate that. Happy holidays to you as well. A cheer unlocks gifts for 3 others. Really? I gotta keep up with some of these Twitch features, to be honest. So, this is Mac. I did fix a lot of our technical issues. Unfortunately, you're not going to hear kind of like the alerts or anything like that. Mac is a pain in the ass. Pain in the butt. Sorry, to set up with OBS. And I got to figure out how to, I can actually get the sound to play to you guys, but then it, distorts the sound that I hear. And I hear, this crackling. And I got to figure that out. So, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We'll get there. I got the camera all right, so I'm not just this dark figure in this light background. We'll get there. What is few? Sounds similar to view. Did I say few? View. Sorry, Slayer. Thanks for the correction. Yeah, you're not keeping up with your framework, Slayer. It's a new framework coming out. You haven't delved much into JavaScript frameworks besides Angular. I haven't even really tackled ES6 much. How do you like Angular? It's a pretty robust framework. Angular is okay. I just don't like TypeScript. Is TypeScript required with Angular? What do I feel like that was more of a personal choice? Is it kind of just convention to go with TypeScript with Angular? As a test-driven development coding challenge. That's interesting. A test-driven development coding challenge. Most of the coding challenges you get aren't test-driven. That is interesting. Huh. I like that. I feel like I probably would have done pretty poorly on that if I was given that. Just because I actually started writing a lot more tests once I started working full-time. And I started seeing the value of it. Because when your your application, when it gets big, you want tests. You don't want to trust that you don't screw something up. You want those tests to give you that peace of mind. And even then, just because all of your tests pass doesn't mean you've written good tests either. So, I think on the flip side, you get a lot of senior developers, or at least developers who have been in the game a while, who don't really have good development skills. That's a fair assumption. That's a fair assumption, Slayer. And you can get some senior developers that don't work on personal projects, that just get into their old habits of maintaining, this legacy application, and they don't really grow as a developer in the way they really could. So that's a good point, Slayer. I mean, I think that's kind of a concern when you bring on senior developers. What habits are they also bringing with them, right? So that's definitely a concern. I attended an event where businesses could meet potential candidates for their development positions. The visitors were asked to put up stickers to show the languages they were proficient in, and some just seemed to put up as many stickers as possible. It was such a fail and waste of time to attend. Only 2 people dropped their resume. Wow. Hopefully they learned from that. Stickers, that's interesting. We've talked about, when we bring up portfolio projects for our website reviews, we've talked about how do we really want to represent our skills. And most people with a portfolio, they turn it into this online resume, which can have its benefits. But with an online, with an online website, you could you can promote yourself in such a better way than just like making an online resume that's just this conversion of your resume from Word. Um, Stickers. Huh. Okay. Oh, it's holiday emotes. Okay. That's interesting. So you basically gave others holiday emotes. That's really cool. I like that idea. I think TypeScript is bundled in the later releases of Angular. Is it required? Happy holidays to you too, Sova. So did you get the new emotes when he donated? When he cheered, did you get the new emotes? They all claim to have 7+ years of commercial experience with React. One of them actually said he had been an Android developer for the past 15 years. Wow, that's good. Did you have a booth at that event? That's interesting. Meish, how's it going? Welcome back. Do you use any productivity tools like Todoist? Did you maybe read Getting Things Done by David Allen? I'm curious how you approach this in terms of perfectionism and procrastination. I've not read Getting Things Done. Actually, lately I've been experimenting with productivity apps, and it's more so like I've actually just used a Kanban board that allows me to track what's the term? Like 25 increments of kind of like productivity. What is it called? So like where you spend 25 minutes doing a task with a 5-minute break, and you're separating your tasks with these increments. What is it called? Why can I not think of it? You guys have to know what I'm talking about. What am I talking about? I'll set up a Kanban board. Pomodoro, thank you. So I'll basically set it up with, like I know I can get, when I come home from work, I can get, if I want to be really productive, 3 Pomodoros done after I come home from work. So I usually get home pretty late. But during the weekends, I'll usually like set myself up with 5 Pomodoros. I need to get 5 Pomodoros, and they can only be stuff that's productive, whether it's it's usually like it's learning something new, or it's creating YouTube videos, or it's streaming, or it's something like that. So I usually organize that. I've used Trello. I've used more sophisticated apps for that. But more importantly, like as I've started diving into UX stuff, like you mentioned the word perfectionism. That's a really interesting thing to mention. Because after I read The Lean Startup, I've really valued getting kind of that MVP out very quickly. And so what I'll do, like I'll kind of go through all my UX questions and really have all the content decided, all the design decided, all the features decided before I even start coding. So then there's no excuse for me to say, hey, you know, we've already kind of had this functionality. Before I release this app, this would be a really cool feature to build. So I don't have that scope creep of all these, you know, like I know the features I want to build. I know the amount of time it's going to take. And I stick to that and I launch something. And that's kind of what I've been doing at work, and that's what I've been trying to bring in a personal project. So all that time is decided, all those questions are answered, all those content design questions, all the feature questions, and then I just say, hey, this can be done in 4 weeks with, you know, my workload. Let's get it done in 4 weeks. And that's kind of my mindset. So I don't know if that answers your question, but as far as perfectionism and procrastination, what helps me is planning out everything that I can. Not everything. Like, I don't spend weeks planning out, but like, you know, I don't scope creep and I don't add a bunch of features. So I know this needs to get done. It's going to take this amount of time. Let's release it. Then if I want to add anything else to it, let's get some user feedback first, and we'll go from there. But that's what helps me, because I think, like, I used to procrastinate when I didn't have, like, an end goal in mind. And I think that's a common thing. I think we all tend to procrastinate when, like, we don't have these milestones, these accurate, measurable milestones set. So I got rid of that, and I improved my procrastination, like, tenfold. And then my perfectionism, that's just something you have to get over. I'm still getting over perfectionism, honestly. But yeah, that's kind of a hard one to beat. But you just gotta good enough is good enough. When you believe in like the agile process, you believe that something can have an infinite number of iterations. So it's easier to accept. This kind of looks pretty crappy, but it provides the feature people were asking for. Let's get some feedback. So when you trust that you can provide multiple iterations in the future, it kind of helps you get over that perfectionism. Does that make sense? So hopefully that answered your question. I had a booth, but I will not go again next year. Just 7 hours of talking to people that don't seem to really want a job. Why? Why do they show? What? I feel like when I went to like a job fair or something like that, I remember I was at a casino in Northwest Indiana, and it was when I first got out of college, and I wanted to apply for like management positions. And I applied to any and every management or supervisor position I could. And I dropped my resume on almost every single table, and I talked to like, and there were lines. Like it took forever to talk to some of these companies. Like I don't understand how that shifts the complete opposite way. Like it was like one employer with 100 different resumes. I don't. That sounds like a really crappy event where you have a lot of employers and no one's like dropping their resume. I don't know. That seems backwards. That's weird. That sounds weird to me. Maybe sort of an Android developer. Should have hired him, AI neural network expert, and I made fun of him. How is your blog template? How's it come along? Oh, yeah. How is your blog, Demon? That's what getting things done proposes. Plan things very precisely so you know you what you are going to do. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, I guess I didn't really know what to call it, but yeah, absolutely. I think the planning has helped that scope creep, and I think that scope creep is what has given me like over 4 dozen unfinished. If you guys, God, if we had past broadcasts for years of us streaming on Twitch, the number of unfinished projects I have, and I even just talked to my boss about that, like, and that's like year of 2018 is I'm done with these unfinished projects. This is a thing of the past. So I guess you could call that my New Year's resolution. But yeah, the number of unfinished projects I had because of Project Scope, because I never planned things out, is really, and the essence of what I was streaming on Twitch for you guys was, let's just build something and grow as a developer. And then build something else, continue growing as a developer. Like the job was to finally make that career transition. But now that I made it, like my priority has shifted to actually getting the projects. You gain so much more. You grow so much more when you actually finish projects. And I didn't see that when I was first growing as a developer. Get one of the big issues solved now to design more. It's not shower. Feels good, man. Always feels good feeling refreshed after a shower. Don, do you know how I can learn programming language through the internet without books? 2Crossfires, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Google. I'm not being a smartass. What do you want to learn? Look up a free tutorial for it. I can give you, if you want to learn JavaScript, Eloquent JavaScript is a great free book. It's online. Start with that, with JavaScript. It all depends on what you want to do. Start following blogs that basically write tutorials on the languages you want to learn. If you want to become a front-end developer, Smashing Magazine, especially if you want to become a front-end developer that's design-oriented, Smashing Magazine is a great blog to follow. And so what's happening with you now, Vink? What's happening with you right now? I can share what I have at the moment. Would you like to see? Sure, Demon. Want to learn Java, but I mean the basics, but I don't find a site where I can really learn from it. Awesome, thanks for the link. I mean, honestly, there are so many free resources. If you guys have any free Java resources, please feel free to link them in chat. Planning precisely is great when possible, but don't try to do it when you're actually prototyping, in which case you usually let structure reveal itself as you create the pieces. And only then you can sit and plan properly onwards. When you're talking about prototyping, are you talking about the design itself, SimpleVar? Because if you're not, and you're talking about, this is where I'd argue against that. And this is, I've even learned this from, we have a really good designer. Coming up, like planning out the content and going through that UX process before you even start prototyping is crucial. And so allowing your designs and your structure to be influenced by prototyping that has no guidance, that has no planning, I don't think that's more efficient. I think coming up with that content and answering those UX questions first is going to, like, content is king. You get that content established first. You answer those questions. What do you really want this app to be? Once you have that content and you start to form that informational architecture, then you can start prototyping a little bit. Then you could start talking about how are we going to deliver these features? What is that going to look like? So I guess my question is, what do you mean by my prototyping? Google equals life. Google is amazing. Hey, do you have some tips to stay motivated on long projects? Virax, I have a better tip for you. Don't depend on motivation sticking with you with long projects. In fact, and this should be motivating in itself, you will not stay motivated on a project from start to finish. Most people don't, and you need to expect that and you need to push through it. Don't ever drop off of a project because you feel like it's not the right project because you don't stay motivated. It's just something you have to push through. Those rewards, the rewards are going to boost your motivation once you have a finished project and you get a user base behind it or you deliver it to a client. Those rewards are long-term rewards, and you're not, if you have a long-term project, you're going to go through those plateaus of motivation, but there is that big burst of motivation once you deliver a finished project, no matter how it looks or kind of what state it's in. So that's my technique, is don't expect to have motivation through long projects. You just gotta push through it, man. I have not seen the new Star Wars movie. I hear a lot of excitement around it, and I know I'm going to hear a lot about it at work, because I'm pretty sure half of our tech team went to see that. The project requirements themselves are not fully material. That's the problem, simply, Ver. That is the problem right there. You just spelled it out. The project requirements are not fully materialized. They should be. They should be, and you do what it takes to get them materialized. And so that is kind of a common problem that you can encounter, where these projects, like, even I've had requirements that are just shaky delivered to UI, and it's like, and I got to go back and ask all of these questions. So when I do go through product requirements with our product manager, I ask tons of questions, and I make sure that those product requirements are very, very clear and deliver all the information I need, so there's no guesswork. And so that is a problem with products, is you need to have those requirements materialized now. So my argument is, should you be jumping into prototype that quickly when all the project requirements aren't materialized? Does that make sense? So I agree. Like, it's going to be hard to kind of solidify really anything, even solidify any design, when those requirements, you don't have them. Hey, Sergeant Wayneson, welcome back. How would you deal with a freelance web client that talks about trying out Vistaprint Digital, a web builder? How should I go about convincing them not to use it? What are your arguments for him not using it? Does he know how to code? It sounds like it's a solution that, or is he trying to get you to use that? Is that the argument? business partner and I found a fix for this. We had someone that used Vistaprint Web, and we just manage it for him now for a decent rate. I mean, that's what it is. If he's trying to get you to use it, it's like, okay, I got to learn the software. That's going to be your time. That's going to cost money, and you got to maintain it. That's going to cost money. But yeah, I have a feeling like you're providing a solution. You're still going to need to maintain it for him, whatever platform he chooses. But I've never used it personally, so I really don't know what goes on with it. Scrootzer. So you basically don't need another online course, but some hand-holding and help get started. Sounds like he... I don't like that word hand-holding. I don't like that word hand-holding. It sounds like... If maybe you might even consider investing a little money into a course that's laid out. Oh, it got dark, actually. Okay, you guys can still see me. All right, cool. If you want to learn something, Treehouse. TeamTreehouse.com is completely worth the $25 a month. It's how I got started. It's actually, before I went to Full Stack Academy, it's basically taught me all of my CSS stat and, building a lot of projects on the side. But it's an amazing platform. So if you're looking for that curated content delivered to you, you might just be willing to pay a little extra money for like a video course or something like that. There are a lot of good platforms. It's not easy just learning from tutorials, from free resources. No one said it's easy. I said you could do it. It's definitely not easy all the time. They can't always be. You play around to accomplish something you don't yet know yet. You experiment in the wild. Usually happens. So that's the thing. Why does it usually happen on personal projects? Because it's more efficient when you want to get a product delivered and you have, you have a client, you have a business to run. There's a reason why you solidify those requirements first, is because that loose experimental time, that should be part of the UX process, but you shouldn't be diving into prototypes that quickly. So there's a reason why that's done for personal projects, is because you don't really have that motivating factor of, I need to be efficient with this personal project. You can experiment. When it comes to a business, when it comes to a client, you solidify those requirements. So my argument is you could probably learn from how you would handle a project at a business and start applying that to your personal projects to start becoming more successful at delivering those personal projects. And so that's even something that I've been struggling. I like experimenting. If you look at my past broadcasts, you'll see me experimenting all the time. No design mockups whatsoever, no content decided. I've done that, but I don't think it was effective. Got into a trial and they did something sneaky. They asked him to give up a domain name, so he's locked in for the first year. He's locked into Vistaprint. Okay. Huh. Alright, that's interesting. What are the host front-end technologies used these days? What are the hot? Hey, Mr. Miyagi, how's it going? JavaScript and CSS. They're still the hot languages used. Everything else is just fluff. I think you can't go wrong with learning React or Angular, especially if you're just trying to get a job. I think React and Angular make you really marketable. Those are still probably two of the most popular. Vue's becoming more popular. My argument is I hate giving out languages or like hot frameworks. Just look at your local job postings. That's what I would say, but you usually can't go wrong with React and Angular still. P-React. I don't think I've heard of P-React before. It's a light version of... Oh, I have heard of P-React. It's actually been introduced in our community before. Did you go to college? Endorphins. I did go to college. Not for computer science. I actually went for psychology. I went for psychology. I got into a supervisor position in aquatics. I started off as a lifeguard, then eventually went into aquatics management and kind of just I eventually got an aquatics director position at a YMCA. And I just kind of pursued management. I was interested in psychology, getting to know people, being able to motivate them and figure out ways to motivate them. So that's what fascinated me so much about management. Yeah, no technical background whatsoever. And then I made the transition. I saved up as much money as I could, put in a 6-week notice, and basically made, I've been experimenting with coding ever since I was 18, actually earlier than that. But finally made the transition and the decision to say, hey, I'm gonna do this as a career. Once I made that decision, just a lot of self-learning. Learned tons of CSS and front-end, a little bit of JavaScript, and then I still had this huge gap in JavaScript. So then I applied for Full Stack Academy. It's kind of just a really good program to teach you the ins and outs of JavaScript. They do it well. And learned tons of JavaScript, and then applied for positions and started my full-time position as a UI engineer. So I definitely do not have a computer science degree, if that's what you asked, but I did go to college. From my experience, there can be some simple, stupid showstoppers for new developers, so the hand holding is supposed to fix those issues to enable them to continue learning. When you say hand holding, I think of people that don't work their butts off to learn. And I think when I think of that's not what you're referring to. So I completely agree. And in fact, that's why I like those online learning platforms like Treehouse, because they do provide a little bit of hand-holding, especially when you're first learning a language. I think it can be very helpful. And then it becomes a hindrance when you start getting into the intermediate level. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, when I think of hand-holding, I think of all the people coming into our community saying, teach me JavaScript, teach me CSS. Okay, and we'll hand them a few tutorials to read, and they're like, "No, I don't want a tutorial. I want you to teach me." No, I'm not going to take 2 hours out of my day to teach one person that isn't even investing in themselves, investing time. So when you say hand-holding, that's kind of what I picture in my mind. But yeah, there is, in essence, kind of like an effective learning style when you first start learning something, and that hand-holding. That's why I like online learning platforms like Treehouse. Still comes down. It does, Mr. Miyagi. It does. Mr. Miyagi's been with this. You've been with us for a very long time. Almost close to when I started. It's an honor to kind of see you still around. That's really cool, Mr. Miyagi. Welcome back, by the way. But yeah, it really comes down to CSS and JavaScript. And I know people like hated my new logo. It's the JavaScript and CSS. They hated it. They're like, what relevance does it have to your community? Why in the world do you have a logo with JavaScript and CSS? And it might not be the best branding choice, but it's the reason why I had that as my logo, and I continue to have that, is that's the essence of front end. It's CSS and JavaScript. We're going to get these new hot frameworks every single year. We're going to get these new technologies every single year. But CSS and JavaScript is still what you need to learn if you want to be a front-end developer. You can't escape that. It's in the essence of all these new hot online tools and hot frameworks. I mean, like CSS and JavaScript it's going to be around for a very, very long time. You can't go wrong with it. So that's kind of what the logo represents. But you're right. It all comes down to CSS and JavaScript. Figure out what's fire locally at the businesses you'd like to work at. It gives some guidance. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. I missed my link as you asked how the blog template was going on. Was going to show you. Thank you, Demon. Gonna go ahead and copy that. Sorry, I just prioritize questions when it comes to the Q&A, but I will definitely check out your blog, whether it's online or offline. Indeed, if one already programmed other languages, it's expected they should be able to learn everything themselves. Yeah, so maybe when you're talking about hand-holding, I can see some helpful tutorials. Like if you're learning PHP, it's also going to be helpful to learn programming. Does that make sense? Just because you know programming doesn't mean you know PHP and vice versa. And I think PHP is a really good example of that too. But like programming concepts, what is a loop? You know, what is a variable? Stuff like that, where maybe I wouldn't say they need to have their hand held, but they need to really understand these basic concepts, and they need a tutorial that caters to that. Feel guilty for not joining your stream more often? No, it's we've done all sorts of types of streams, and everyone has their own lives, and everyone has their own preferences. I'll have people when I go back to programming, and I'll like do those coding challenges. I'll get people that I've not seen for months come back, and you know, everyone has their preferences, and everyone has their personal life. So I don't hold that to anyone. It's always good to see you back eventually. JavaScript will never die. For better or worse, it's going to be around for a long time. It might end up being replaced, 10 years down the road, but I'd bet my job that it's going to be around for a while. But I always enjoy them when I have time to watch. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Miyagi. I know you're busy. CSS will, I think? You think CSS is going to die? I don't think so. CSS is such a pain, a bit less since Flexbox. It's a pain. I'll agree with you there. I don't think it's going to die for a long time. And I think, I don't know what to tell you. I going to these alumni panels at Full Stack Academy. It's like, I'll learn JavaScript, and some of them want to become front-end developers. They're like, why is CSS such a pain? Do we have to learn it? I'm like, CSS is like one of the biggest pains in the ass to learn. Like, there's nothing programmatically consistent about it. It's like going from programming to CSS, it's a ton of headaches. Accept that and just deal with it. CSS is, it's very frustrating. It took me so long to learn, and all these different browser quirks, and when you're becoming a developer, when you want to get your first position, you want to learn best practices, but where do you draw that line? What browsers do you support? How are you even going to know that when you haven't even, maintained a production application? You don't really have a giant user base to get statistics from. It's like, how much do you need to learn with CSS? And where do you draw the line? What parts of CSS do you need to learn? Do you need to learn Flexbox? Do you prioritize Flexbox? Do you prioritize the fundamentals? Do you want to get comfortable with the fundamental? And that's where I'd emphasize, get comfortable with the fundamentals. That's one thing I disagree with Full Stack Academy is they teach Flexbox. The only CSS you have to learn is Flexbox. And you learn Sass and Flexbox. And in my head, I'm like, you guys are really, really good at teaching JavaScript. You are dropping the ball when you're teaching CSS. People need to understand the fundamentals of CSS. It's easy to pick up these newer pieces of syntax as CSS gets developed, but you got to learn those fundamentals. I don't know. I think I'm just ranting at this point, but yeah, CSS is a beast of its own. PHP will always be a pain to learn for people of all experience levels. Be a pain to maintain. Yeah, I'm maintaining a little PHP with our WordPress app, and it's just the first bug is our form. We're using Gravity Forms, and we have it set they put the freelance agency we hired. They did a lot of good work, first of all, but they customized some of the features of these plugins, and they put the wrong configuration and wrong files. And I'm trying to Typhing, thanks for the follow. Welcome. I'm trying to maintain it, and I'm trying to go through documentation and apply these fixes, these configuration fixes to the files they suggest. But then I'm having to hunt down where this freelance agency fixed it, and it's I don't know. It's just the nature of a PHP app, in my opinion. I knew it was coming. I knew I'd be maintaining a WordPress app, and I knew the PHP written for it and the plugins. It's gonna be messy. Yeah, I don't know. That's another rant I can go off of. But yeah, PHP can be messy. PHP can be written in a clean way. Dev, let me know if you disagree, but PHP can be written in a clean way. You could have good practices, you just often don't. That's all it is. I'm going to be online for so long as it share my local host set up online. CSS is fun, Demon. There's no kappa about it. When you get comfortable with CSS, I love doing CSS. Like, I used to hate it. I really did. I used to hate CSS. And I'm probably, honestly, one of the only developers I know in person that loves CSS. I probably got to meet more front-end developers that love CSS, but everyone around me hates it. But you like it. When you get comfortable with it, you like it. And it's because to actually be really comfortable with CSS and enjoy it, you're kind of a rare developer. And so if you take the time to learn CSS and the fundamentals and get comfortable with it and get past how frustrating it is to learn something like CSS, you become much more hireable. You'd be surprised at how many front-end developers avoid CSS. Very funny when you have to support 4 different browsers with different exceptions. Sure, watch, you have to use Sass or Less or Silas if you want proper code. You don't have to. You don't have to. Just like JavaScript, there are a lot of additions to CSS to try to make it more organized and everything. And it's just being willing to be adaptable and open to what your business is using. That's something implicitly assumed by a lot of tutorials targeting people who are already devs. It's harder than we think to teach that to beginners. That's fair. That's fair, and I do think it is. It's harder than you think it is to teach beginner tutorials. I agree with that. Just because you understand it does not mean you can teach it, and does not mean you can really empathize with that mindset of not knowing, what even a loop is, let alone the efficiency of solving an algorithm. So I agree with that. CSS only sucks hard, really. Only since last year we got variables. Do we have variables with CSS? I can honestly say I don't keep up with the latest CSS features. Are you talking about like a CSS preprocessor? Because I can definitely see myself not using variables if CSS has come up with that for a very long time, just because of the compatibility issues. But that's interesting. I feel like I've heard about something like that outside of CSS preprocessors. A boy asks his Bitcoin investing dad for 1 Bitcoin for his birthday. It's a lot of money. What do you need? I don't get it. Oh, did the dad take some of the money that he earned or something like that? I don't get it, Dev. I'm sorry. That went way over my head. Maybe one should come to CSS from formats and config files or something. What do you mean? I really think CSS is late and we should not use Sass or Less. The features provided by these frameworks should be all native, like CSS 4 version or something. CSS is just late compared to the JavaScript ecosystem. JavaScript is evolving very quickly, and it's still very new and fresh. What preprocessors allow you to do is organize your CSS. What kind of features has CSS provided to allow you to organize it? Does it provide nesting of selectors? Like I said, I haven't kept up with the most up-to-date features. Has CSS provided nesting with selectors? I still think there are things CSS preprocessors are going to provide us that CSS will not be available. And if they are, like the features in CSS, they're not going to be available that match preprocessors for a while. And if they are available, they're not going to be compatible and really usable for years down the road. So I think we're going to be taking advantage of CSS preprocessors for a long time. Whether that's right or wrong, it's not really, that question's irrelevant. It's what keeps our really, really large CSS files of a really large project organized. I think you should be learning a CSS preprocessor. I find it amazing how quickly it gets dark in your area. It does get dark pretty quickly, doesn't it? I probably should turn on a light or something. Yeah, it's really dark. All right, you guys have a lot of good questions. Give me just a few minutes. I gotta actually take a quick bathroom break. I'll be right back. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in chat. All right, be right back. All right, I'm back. All right, so I was actually only going to stream for an hour today. I got to go work out. So I'll stream for a little bit longer. So feel free if you guys have any questions. Go ahead and post them. Try to cover all of them. All right, where was I? All right, so but thanks for joining us. 2 a.m. Yeah, it's pretty late. Happy holidays to you too. No, so there is variables in native CSS now. Okay. The problem is they're just not. It's just not cross-browser compatible. Like it's just going to take some time. Like I get the argument of CSS is providing these features, and they are long overdue. But cross-browser compatibility is a serious issue with CSS. So that's why I think learning a preprocessor is still not only going to make you a better developer, but it's going to make things more organized. That's the tool, kind of, I guess, one of the major go-to tools we have of keeping our CSS organized. Bitcoin prices fluctuating like crazy. That's kind of the pun. I gotcha. All right, that makes a lot of sense. They do change pretty damn frequently. I think a lot of us are kicking ourselves for not investing in them. But what I mean, it's a pain for the workflow at the end because the developer have to add more tools to work. By the way, I know already. Let's say, Virix, welcome to front end. That's Welcome to tool on top of tool on top of tool on top of library on top of framework. That's JavaScript in a nutshell, and to a lesser extent, CSS in a nutshell. Best language for writing a generic scraper? Anything that's fast, I suppose. Python has beautiful soup, which work really great. Do CSS preprocessors do any compression or have any performance benefits? Often no. In fact, the performance can usually be hindered with the way it spits out the CSS. So the way you nest your variables, like in a CSS, so I don't believe Sass does this, and you could organize this with the plugin, but like for performance benefits, really your CSS preprocessor should recognize, okay, we have 120 media queries of 721 pixels. So I should combine all of these rules within that media query, but Sass kind of spits out separate media queries. I believe it still does. Maybe I'm just flat out wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure it does. And so it's really for organization, not so much for performance. That's a good question, though. I use Scrapey, a Python framework, but it's not generic. I don't know. Browsers still support older specifications. Nothing against that. And that is the unfortunate part. Yeah, we're not saying you're wrong, Byrex, and it is kind of it is convoluted to have libraries on top of libraries, and it can be a pain to manage, but that is one of the stronger. I mean, that is kind of one of the stronger arguments when you negotiate your salary. Front-end developers need to know, in my opinion, a lot more than some software engineers. And it's because we have all of these things that we need to keep up with and all of these libraries that we need to keep up with. So there are advantages to saying, to kind of just going with the flow and saying, the CSS preprocessor is kind of a pain in the butt. We don't need it, but it's one extra tool for me to learn. And for that reason, I'm providing more value to my company. And I bring up the idea of it can be a little bit harder to keep up with things as a front-end engineer versus like a back-end engineer, just because you often you can get some pay differences between the two. And if you are interested in front-end, I'm an advocate of pushing for higher salary for front-end. And I got a boss that really respects the value, and a tech manager that respects the value of front end. But you really do. Learning all of these extra tools, it requires more time and effort. It's for upkeep, and you deserve a higher salary for it. So that's where I see it as an advantage. Yeah, you do have to keep up with all these extra stuff, but it makes you more valuable as a software engineer. So look at it, try to look at that as your advantage. Does that make sense? Let me know if any of you disagree either. Yeah, I agree, cross-browser compatibility is the worst thing ever in web dev. That's web dev in a nutshell. There are only 2 of us? What do you mean? Oh, I thought you meant we only had 2 viewers. I'm like, all right. I guess I bored some people to death and they just left the stream. But the libraries are an issue created by those same front-end people. Oh, yeah. It's an evil plot for us front-end developers to get paid more. We invent more obscurities, more abstractions, and then demand more money. He's on to us. Only thing in front end is WebGL. Is that so? What do you think is a fair salary for a front end engineer then? A mid-level one? I can give you salaries for Chicago, and then you can just look up on Google to translate that with what is it called, like the index, the consumer. I don't know how you would just basically adjust it for your expenses. But in Chicago, a mid-level front end engineer, is that what you asked? Yeah, front end engineer, mid-level. In Chicago, probably about 90,000. Um, in a smaller town, I mean, obviously you're gonna might reduce that all the way up to about 20,000 less. Does that help? That's interesting because if I let's just say, for example, I hope this company never does, but it went under. I would definitely look at cities in Florida, California, New York. New York is a big one. I can see myself living in New York eventually. Seriously. I see that question that just popped up. I'll get to that question, Dev. I would actually love to live in New York. Eventually, it'd be nice to work remote at this company, and I could see myself moving to New York. I'm gonna actually take a trip out there early this year. I know when it's super cold, but I got some friends out in New York I'm gonna stay with. But I've never been to New York City, New York City, and Manhattan specifically is where I'm gonna travel to. I got a place to stay, but I'm really excited to go to New York City. Car has four tires and one spare tire. Each tire can travel a maximum distance of 20,000 miles before wearing off. What is the maximum distance that the car can travel before you are forced to buy a new tire? You are allowed to change tires. I am not answering that on stream. If anybody else wants to answer that, feel free. There's no way I'm answering that on stream. We don't do logic on stream. We don't do logic on stream, Dev. What kind of stream do you think this is? I started with 2K per month and then with 3K after 4 years, but I live in France. Don't know how. Oh, that's a fair question. Then yeah, it it sounds like you do a lot of front end work, right? I mean, yeah, that salary would probably pertain to you. I mean, 4 years, you could argue you can start applying for senior positions too. Have you ever had a remote contract dev job? How was it? I have not. I have not had a remote contract job, but there are people in this community that have. So feel free to kind of post your opinions about that. My boss, I haven't met him in person, not once. He actually, he's been at the company for quite a few years, and he works remote. So he's a little bit further down south, but yeah, I haven't met him. He works remote every day of the week, and he loves it. Honestly, I talked to him about that. He absolutely loves working remote. He feels like he gets a lot more work done working remote. Like there are things that he had to sacrifice, and it is kind of nice to be able to go out with drinks with your tech team and stuff like that. But he loves it. He absolutely loves it. May have to aim higher after a couple years. You might. I mean, in Chicago, I'm sure you can get up to closer. You can probably get over this, but 120 for senior positions. For front end engineer position, you can get over 120. And it all depends. It really all depends on your company. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could aim for six figures easily with your experience in Chicago. You should come to Silicon Valley, Mr. Miyagi. I would. Yeah, I've always been open to that. I applied to some companies in Silicon Valley when I was first applying. I didn't hear anything back, but I also didn't have really any enterprise experience whatsoever. So, but yeah, that's definitely, I'm open to that in the future. I think I'd really enjoy that. You're happy where you are? Well, that's good, Nim. That's what's important. You're doing both front end and back? Why do programmers wear headphones while programming? But I really always wondered why. These headphones, I invested. These are expensive headphones. They're the Boss C35 wireless. Cost me a few hundred. And I saved up money for this because of the active noise cancellation. Because the person in my cubicle, the software engineer that sits right next to me in my cubicle, he eats the crunchiest foods that you can imagine. He never eats anything that isn't crunchy. I don't know if it's like a plan to annoy the hell out of me, like that's his objective behind it. But I got these headphones to drown people like that out. Because I love hearing my music and not having that mixed with crunchy chips in the background. That's why I wear headphones. Maybe other people have other reasons. Helps focus even without music. I've had this on without music before. Headphones help get rid of noise distractions. Easy to pronounce. Absolutely. Plus, they make it look like you're busy or don't want to be disturbed. I like the don't want to be disturbed. I actually don't like that because I love people interrupting me. I don't know. I like helping people. Like I'll actually hop off my issues really quickly to help people. But that's just because I like. Sometimes I don't like being alone 8 hours a day. Like I like interacting with people, and I'll get up. I'll just talk to people. That's just my personality, though. So I like when people bug me. So the headphones actually, you're right. They do teach people stay away. I'm busy. Gives them the opposite impression. And when I take them off, then people will talk to me more often, and then I'll put them back on and silence. So it's advantages and disadvantages, but kind of need a sign. All programmers need a sign that says "Do not disturb," that like highlights in red when they're busy, when they're like mind deep into this problem, and then like something where you could just turn it off when you're open to people bugging you. Context switching is a problem. It is, and even like a lot of product owners, they try to avoid that when you're working on different projects. But I don't mind context switching. And when I say context switching, that's just like you're solving one problem, and then a product owner says, hey, actually, we just got this new bug. This needs to be fixed faster. Then you're switching. Then you have to adjust your mindset into switching and just adjusting to this new problem. And then switching back over. And then when you constantly switch back and forth, it takes a few minutes to get into the problem, get into the mindset again. And so when you are constantly context switching, you want to be careful of that because you're inefficient with your time. Because it takes a little bit more time to dive back into that problem and get that insight that you had again. Yeah, for concentration it can help. Do you think Bootstrap is suitable for prototyping only if the age-old general argument might suggest, or do you have a different opinion? There's Steve Boyd. There's welcome back, by the way. Bootstrap can get an app up and running and get a user base behind it. There's nothing wrong with using Bootstrap. People avoid it because especially designers avoid it because a Bootstrap theme can look like every other Bootstrap theme. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, and get an app up and running really quickly. I'd argue that it provides more value than customizing the design. I think people don't understand the value of different designs, and I don't think people could distinguish the value of different designs because they specify it like they prioritize different designs and they have favorites of different designs and styles, and it's all really personal preference at the end of the day. Now, there are effective positioning of different elements and different contrasts that you can focus on when you're choosing different colors, but really design, a lot of that is personal preference. So having this Bootstrap design that looks like every other Bootstrap design can still be extremely effective when you know the content, when you know where you want to place those elements. So that's where I used to think it was just for prototyping, but I do think Bootstrap still has its place. Open space is like hell for devs, really. Yeah, it is. It is. I'll agree with that. Music without the the crunch. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Music. I like that. That's what headphones provide programmers with. Music without the crunch. I've read a lot of open source, and it's bad for anyone really. Open space, and it's bad for except it saves money for the office space. Yeah. You know, though, even it's interesting because even our CEO has a cubicle at our company. And he certainly gets paid the salary to afford an office, or to earn himself an office. But I think, like, our company personally likes the open space because, yeah, developers, it can bug us a lot. But, like, they kind of, all of the higher-ups are in a cubicle and you can approach them. It makes them extremely approachable, and I think that's why, like, they like the open space thing because it allows you to feel comfortable going up and talking to the CEO, which, you know, like when you create that connection with the CEO and he believes in your position, and, you know, he likes the work that you do, it provides a lot more motive to continue doing a really good job when you can connect with higher ups like that. So that's where our company kind of values that open space, but for developers it is kind of a love-hate relationship having that open space. I get that same feeling coding all day long alone is kind of boring after a certain time. Yeah, it can be. It really can be. Mine would always be D&D or AFK, even when I was sitting there. I like it. I like it, yeah. We do have that in HIP. We use HipChat for kind of like an online tool. Like, I didn't realize it was to respect developer privacy, but we would actually have developers like one cubicle over messaging each other. And I thought that was the silliest thing in the world when I first started working at this company. But it isn't. And I realized that because you can actually, like, you can put statuses like do not disturb and stuff like that. And, like, you know, to let people know you're busy. And that's kind of how we do it. But there's no way to do that in real life. You just... someone comes up and bugs you, you can't be that asshole that says go away. Like, you're a team, gotta smile, and answer those questions. I'm a junior dev in Norway, and I have a salary equivalent to 500,000 US dollars. Veit, that's good. That's good. You happy with your job? So it's simulating to help people. By the way, it trains you problems solving ability, which reflects in code resolutions later. Yeah, the problems that occur when you interact with people. I hate context switching. If I am working on a problem, I don't want anyone to bother me. You know, I've even, like, just picked up my laptop and just moved into one of the... We have these shareable offices that we pretty much have all of our meetings in, and I've taken my laptop and just went in and shut the door before. Noterfens, thanks for the follow. Welcome. And by the way, for everyone new in this channel, we do this every other weekend. We do a live Q&A. And so if you kind of just want to come in and even just get feedback on websites, like your website designs and your portfolio, we do that as well. We always prioritize questions first, though. So if chat's flowing, I keep up with questions. If it's not, I start diving into website reviews. But yeah, I'll close the door to kind of just stay focused. I've not needed to do that so far with these headphones, though. That's what I love about these headphones. You can always choose different components of Bootstrap. You don't have to use all things. Foundation framework is even heavier. I like Bootstrap's grid system and some of its features like collapse tooltips. The rest is very optional. And you're right. You're absolutely right. You can pull in certain components of Bootstrap. As an aspiring developer, how much computer science knowledge versus hands-on programming? Virix, thanks for the follow. Welcome. Tierlum, thanks for the follow. Welcome, guys. Welcome to our community. Where was I? How much computer science knowledge versus hands-on programming skills would you suggest is more valuable for self-learning? Hold on, I accidentally just pulled up a window that blocked all my chat. Okay. I'm a stay-at-home dad with a son with disabilities, and I want to invest my free time in the most constructive way possible. That's fair. So do you want to become a programmer? Start programming. I think computer science topics are helpful, but I think the practical knowledge of learning the syntax and building a program is going to be more valuable with your time, especially if you don't have a lot of it. You need to learn how to build apps, you need to build apps. Computer science concepts are helpful. Getting a familiarity of just data structures in general are helpful, but a lot of software engineers don't even mess with complex data structures. They don't even mess with this, frankly, difficult theory behind a lot of computer science concepts. It'll make you a better programmer, but it certainly is not a priority. And that's just my personal opinion. And just talking with other software engineers, and even at Full Stack Academy, like the whole concept of a coding bootcamp is to focus on the practical concepts, on learning a language and building things with it, and getting better at that. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That's the whole concept behind a coding bootcamp, is focusing on those practical skills as a programmer. So I'd argue it's a nice to have, and it'll make you a more well-rounded programmer, but it's not a priority if your time is limited. What do you guys think about that? I go to a co-working space sometimes. I don't get a lot of work done, but it's a great moment to hear about other people's businesses and to leave my details or connect with them. I like that, just kind of open ear. Dev Bowser just sitting at that table. Oh, by the way, we built an application like that before. So if you're looking for work, I could see you doing something like that. That's clever. HipChat is great. You have a Git commits notification in chat? Yes, you do. You have a lot of notifications in chat. When I'm annoyed at my team, I'll just literally link my Jira cases. I'll link like 8 of them and put them all in progress, and I'll just spam their chat. But yeah, you can link a lot in HipChat. How much do you use Stack Overflow? Probably daily. It's a good question, Sade. I use it daily. I do. I'll usually go to the second answer. And then if that second answer doesn't give me the solution, I'll probably go elsewhere. I literally jump on Stack Overflow if I don't have a concrete solution very quickly. I move on, because then I'm starting to get into the weeds of surprisingly upvoted answers that aren't really correct. So that's where if I find a solution that's highly upvoted, cool, let's try it. If not, I move on. That's kind of my experience with Stack Overflow. But yeah, I use it pretty much daily. It's a company called WeWork that provides co-work spaces. That's interesting. I see another question regarding Bootcamp. Do you think using it might cause distrust with customers due to its general appearance is akin to what we've come to know that resembles the basics of scam websites? Or do you think that is really just overtaking? So, using... Oh, Bootstrap! Okay, I'm like, alright, I'm just trying to put a couple things together, and I just had the word wrong. Do you think using it might distrust the customers due to its general appearance? It might. It might put some off. Stevoid. Yeah, I wouldn't argue that Bootstrap is... I mean, it is, but even though it's going to put some people off that might think that you're not experienced enough because they might feel like you had to use Bootstrap, at the end of the day, you're going to get clients by providing solutions. And though majority of your clients aren't going to care about how you solve their problem, they're just going to care that you solved their problem. So while you might put a few people off, if you can get multiple projects up and get a user base behind them, that's going to provide you more value than the few that are going to judge your development skills based on using Bootstrap. That's my opinion with that. When I first started programming, I used to think copying code or using others' code is a bad practice. Yeah. You should understand it. I think that's where people misunderstand. They think it's a bad practice just to copy code. It is when you don't understand it and you can't explain it. When you go into an interview and you have 100 lines of code in this file, this PHP file, and you understand maybe a few lines of it. It's like, wait a second. How did you even get this up and running? It's like you need to understand the code that you're copying and pasting. So if you're doing it to save time, someone already solved that problem, that's perfect. Use it to be efficient with your time, but you should understand the code itself. But yeah, copying and pasting can be a thing. Just don't steal someone's project and claim it as your own. You know, there's definitely a line in that saying somewhere. I think it's unavoidable at start because it's just too much to learn. So you apply divide and conquer algorithm without knowing it. You're problem in little pieces, which becomes understandable alone after being resolved, which makes the whole problem resolved and understandable. I like that idea. Conquer it, like solving that problem by tackling the pieces of it. Typically, I like to ask them what makes their product service offering stand out from their competitors. It's a passive-aggressive question that gets the conversation going very easily at that point. It's good. It's good. A lot of business I can't talk today. A lot of business savvy, Dev. I think CS knowledge is very important if you're looking to become a programmer. Do you say? I'd argue against that. I'd argue with limited time, it's not a priority. Thank you for the thoughtful answers. You are welcome. You are absolutely welcome. No defense. He meant, yeah, computer science. Yeah, so I think computer science knowledge it's helpful, but think about how many, God, the number of computer science majors that could not find a job as a developer that were in the Full Stack Academy bootcamp that all of a sudden became really valuable because they learned the practical skills they needed. They learned how to build applications. So like computer science, it's not enough. But it is enough to learn syntax and learn how to build a full application with your programming language. It is enough. You are hireable at that point. But just because you graduate with a computer science degree doesn't make you hireable. Like, not when you're going for programming jobs. So that in itself, and where you can kind of see these, I guess, how many people are really getting jobs out of computer science degrees, it has to at least make you question why don't people get jobs coming fresh out of computer science degrees. It's usually the people that have gone through an internship, and if they're aiming for programming positions, they've done programming on the side. They've learned those practical skills on the side. And a lot of your computer science concepts, and I just saw that, Dan and Beard, I completely agree. 3 years in computer science didn't teach me even a tenth of what I used to make money. Actually, I thought you were saying something else. I agree with that. But you learn a lot on the job. So you learn the practical skills to get the job, and then you learn a lot about code architecture and computer science fundamentals as you continue to iterate and improve your technical team. And as you question the way you're solving problems on your team, you learn a lot on the job. So it's a really good supplement, but it's not a priority. It's something I definitely have a strong belief in, and it's something that coding boot camps really base their success on too. Is we teach you practical skills, computer science theory and knowledge. It's helpful. It's just not what companies prioritize. Most companies prioritize. All our clients care about is budget. Is their problem solved? And do we offer a product that is worth their investment? As in, how is the return on investment? Exactly. No, those are good questions, Steve Boyd. Thanks. They don't even talk about Bootstrap or like. They don't know what it is often. That's kind of my mindset behind it too. And Deb's done, a lot of freelancing, but it just you're providing a solution. How you get to that solution, it doesn't really matter to the client. HTML means, hey, you're the developer. You got to know what HTML means. Self-taught by following popular tutorials, guides, taught me basically everything I use to make money with code. Yeah, Dan and Beard, I'm completely with you on that. I'm completely with you. Learn the practical skills. You can do it for free. You don't have to pay anyone an ounce. I think, and I preach this a lot of times, what I'm really upset with is when people feel they need a computer science degree to become a programmer, to become a software engineer, to even become a front-end developer. Like, you don't. It's such a huge money investment. It can teach you a lot, and I argue you get more out of a university, and that's, if you're going to go to college, go to a university, in my opinion. Otherwise, don't waste your money, because out of a university, it is more expensive, but you develop the social skills. You get involved in initiatives in the community. I mean, like, you just grow as a person. But all the practical and technical skills you need, you can learn on your own. You can do it for free, and when your time is limited, focus on the practical skills. Most valuable knowledge is one you get by experience, not by school. Yep. So it means always keep doing projects, even little ones or personal ones, just to learn. Exactly. So everyone, sometimes, I'm not going to get into that. Computer science degree has its merits, and it helps you grow in certain ways. Just don't feel like you need it. At that point, it matters to the client. You better be charging real good money. Okay, so you guys had tons of good questions today. Actually, I streamed for longer than I thought I was going to. So, guys, if you want me to do this and continue doing this, feel free to just leave a follow. Like, I'm going to be doing these live Q&A streams. We actually didn't do any website reviews, but sometimes we'll even kind of just toss on websites and we'll put them up so everyone can see them, and we'll kind of just do a UX design review on the website. And we'll usually do it over portfolio projects. A lot of people will post their projects and say, hey, like, I want to improve it as much as I can. I'm starting to apply for positions, or I'm trying to get clients. And so we'll kind of just run through it on stream. But the majority of this is just, I love interacting with you guys, and I want to continue doing this. So we're going to do this every other weekend. Going to try to stick to a Saturday. I might even make it earlier in the day so people around the world can, because we used to get people from Europe a lot when we did like a 10 a.m. stream. So I've been considering that, but I think I want to stick with Saturday. So if you like this and you want to see more of it, feel free to give us a follow. We have an offline community that, well, it's online, but it's off stream. So if you kind of just want to touch base, ask questions, a lot of people are really helpful in our community, and I think that's why people enjoy it so much. Feel free to join it. It's on Discord, and you can find the Discord link in the tabs below. I believe it's still up. I hope it's still up. Other than that, you're going to see a new YouTube video out. We're going through coding challenges, kind of just starting from beginner challenges and going onwards. So feel free to follow on YouTube and subscribe on YouTube. You'll see a lot more of that. But yeah, it's good touching base with you guys. You guys had a lot of good questions. If you want to grab coffee, I'm up for it. All right, Nim, send me a message. Send me a private message. We can definitely hook up. Maybe even just, grab a coffee over the weekend. Because I'm usually pretty busy on the weekdays, but I'd be down to grab a coffee on the weekend. But guys, thanks so much for all the questions. Love having you. Obviously, this community wouldn't be what it is without all of you. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have an awesome holiday. Eat tons of food. Don't undervalue family time. I can't tell you how much I took that for granted. Like, just all the holidays, I used to take all that for granted. And now as I'm getting older, you just start learning that family is really, really important. So spend the holidays with your family and enjoy them. So happy holidays, everyone. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Good luck on all of your projects, and happy coding, everyone. Take care.